delighted to have each and every one of you here, and we are blessed with the opportunity to come and meet the candidates and ask questions and be engaged. And so I'm just glad that you're here. Please, the bathrooms are across the hall if you need them. There's water, regular and decaf coffee, lemonade, iced tea, lots of cookies homemade by our church folk, which are the best kind of cookies, cheese, crackers, gluten-free options. So thank you so much for coming and have a great night.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming. My name is Nicole Scott, and I'm going to first, before we get started with you all, I'm going to have our mayoral, can't say it, sorry guys, mayoral candidates come up and lead in the pledge and then share about themselves, and then our moderator will come and talk to you, or I'll talk about him, and then we'll start the question and answer.
I did ask if Dr. Singh wanted to go first, but he told me I could, so I'll start. My name is Dennis Biondo, and I'm running for mayor of Monroeville here. I do feel a little bit like this is a home game for me. My kids go to school here. I was here this morning dropping them off. I am currently the council person for the 7th Ward, which includes this area right here, including the church. I've been on council since 2022, almost 3.5 years now. It's been a busy 3.5 years. We hired a new municipal manager, Alex Rezziani. If you haven't had a chance to meet him yet, I highly recommend it. Very nice guy, very well qualified. We went through an extensive process of interviews, and he was the one we chose to be our manager. We passed a comprehensive zoning ordinance, which I will talk about a little bit more in a couple minutes here. We also bought a convention center, and that was a big thing for Monroeville. That was really a big win for Monroeville, the business community, really the community in general. I was on the Visitors Convention Bureau, which is Visit Monroeville. I was the liaison to council, so I was in a lot of the meetings with the state legislators, our local people, the county councilwoman, and people from the county council, the county executive staff. I sat 2 seats away from Austin Davis, our lieutenant governor, who I actually know from the county as well. I feel like I played I don't want to say that I had a major role in it, but I did play a good part in that, and I was able to experience private and public coming together to accomplish something for the good of the community. And I think that I would like to take that to the next level and be your mayor. I think we do have a lot going on in Monroeville, including the purchase of the mall. That will be another, that's a private entity that bought the mall. They will seek some public input. Anything they build will have to come through us. When I talk about the comprehensive zoning ordinance, that was passed with, frankly, the old ownership of the mall in mind. We expanded the use, what was allowed to be used for that in that property. We reduced, didn't eliminate, but we reduced some of the parking requirements, some of the height requirements. We really loosened the restrictions on use of the property, and that should help out with some of the other stores that are vacant, some of the other properties that we're looking to have developed in the area. That was the end of 2023 when we did that. These things take a little bit of time. I do think Monroeville is on the upswing. I do think Monroeville is doing quite well. We've had a lot of development, specifically in my ward. There's a senior living center at the top of Logan Spirit Road that should be opening any time. It's long story I'm not going to get into, but that's one thing that is set to open. Maple Crest, the golf course was developed. The housing is 2/3 of the way done. 2 of the 3 bases have been built. The Evergreen Apartments, you can all see that from the Parkway. Those are, I don't believe they're open yet, but theirs are very, very soon will be. So we will be. Monroe is doing great. It's on the upswing. I think I'm in a good position to represent you as the next mayor. I'm in touch with. I know the people. My job is as a county solicitor, so I work with the county executive and the officials with the county. Sean Logan is a friend of mine. I interned under him. So I do have the connections to help Monroe as well. And I'd appreciate your vote when you're on either May 20th, whether you vote by mail. I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
So I'm Manu, the other guy. So I want to tell you a bit about myself, because most of you don't know. And so I came here to United States from India as a graduate student, Quebec. And I did finish my PhD in 4 years, which was the shortest time in my batch. And so we accomplished that. Some people dropped out and so forth, the story goes. I came initially to University of California, Santa Cruz, and wondered for 4 years. I thought the whole United States is like Santa Cruz. And then I went outside and, things were different. Yeah, it was an idyllic town. More students than people in the town. So that was my first exposure. And years down the road, so I was in scientific research, and I have quite a few scientific papers published. And I also write poetry now, and I have 3 poems published. So, I'm in different things. 2010, we moved to Monroe. And since then, I've been active in the community. And I taught a class, the pre-COVID days, in yoga class at Senior Center. I was at the library board for 6 years, and many discussion groups we participated. And now currently I'm in the school board. So my interest is sort of coming from scientific background. I see a lot of like industrial or space or creating workshop types institutions. And I think there is a good potential for growth. Everything does not have to be at the Google complex on Penn Avenue. We should get a share of it in Monroe. And I think with my scientific background, I think I can attract some interest in that. I do my take responsibility seriously. I want to serve you, mayor, and also provide a leadership. I am transparent, and I will remain accessible to you. Hopefully, if it comes to that, if I get this position, maybe I will have a monthly meeting with the city groups anytime who want to, anybody wants to ask some questions. And accessible. Basically, that's all I would say. Thank you.
a Dr. Tony Perry, who's going to moderate for us. He's an associate professor of political science at the University of Pittsburgh. He's originally from Gallatin, Tennessee, about 30 minutes north of Nashville. Dr. Perry graduated with a distinction from Vanderbilt University in 2001 and completed his doctoral studies in political science from the State University of New York, Brooks, in 2010. Before coming to Pittsburgh, he was a professor in the Department of Political Science at the University of North Texas for 15 years. In addition to his academic career, Dr. Perry has worked as a legislative assistant at the Tennessee State Legislature and a paralegal at the law firm of, what is that? I'm sorry. Yep, there it is. Swine and Moore in New York City. His family relocated from Dallas metro area to Monroeville 2 years ago. His wife, Chandra Perry, who is a professor of behavioral health counseling at the University of Pitt. They've been married for 11 years. They have 2 children, Kennedy and Miles Perry. Kennedy is 12 years old and is in the 6th grade at Gateway Middle School. Miles is 10 and is in the 4th grade at Ramsey Elementary. As a father of 2 kids with disabilities, Dr. Perry and his wife are devoted advocates for their children to ensure that they provide an inclusive, equitable education. I'm turning this over to you.
Thank you, Nicole. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to welcome everyone. This is a great attendance, both in person and live stream. First, I just want to thank both Nicole and Nicole Scott and Katie Baumgartner for organizing this event. I think this is a critical sort of platform for you to learn a lot about upcoming school board elections and what is being offered. So, I think it's critically important. So to begin, I just want to kind of lay out the ground rules for the event. First, we're going to give each candidate 3 minutes of introductory comments. In these comments, they'll of course say who they are, why they're running, what you believe qualifies you for the position, and the top 3 needs that you see for the district. After that point, we'll go into more substantive areas, and in those areas, we'll devote about 12 minutes to each subject. We'll try to be pretty judicious with the time, so we can fit it all in. And when we go through each of those subject areas, I will start with one particular person. I'll probably go in order again. And then after the initial comments from that person, we'll just sort of open it up so that anyone that wants to respond or add their own comments to that particular question is allowed to do so. So that is the idea.
I'll give you guys, is it okay? I'll give you guys a 30-second warning. I'll have it on my phone. I don't have big clock, sorry guys, but I'll let you guys know when it's 30 seconds.
Okay. Alrighty. So let's begin, and we'll start with Mr. Len Young. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Len Young, resident of Monroeville. Started my life in Zanesville, Ohio in 1957. My parents moved here to Monroeville in 1959. You're familiar with Little Duplex. I think it's like the only one in Monroeville, corner of Colonial Drive and Logan's Ferry Road. We lived there for 2 years. Then moved to Bowling Green Drive. My first school experience was right in this building, kindergarten in 1962. A little bit of history there. Went to Mosside Elementary for my first 3 years. Back then, there were a lot of students, more than the elementary school could handle. There happened to be they call it the new wing on the high school, about so now I guess. 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, we moved up there. Not all of them. I was one of the elementary school students, graduated, went all the way up to the high school. So spent 4th, 5th, and 6th grade at the high school. 7th, 8th, and 9th grade back at South Junior High School. Great time there. And then 10, 11, and 12 back up at Gateway, graduated in 1975. And yes, we're at our 50-year high school reunion this year. Started working at ripe young age at 9 years old. My father opened a retail jewelry store in the Monroeville Mall. And actually started in Greengate Mall in 66 and opened Monroeville Mall in 1969. So I actually worked at Christmas time, engraving ID bracelets and charms. It was like all the rage back then. So I got a good start in my working history back then. Graduated in 75, went to Penn State University for a year. I realized I really didn't want to do an education. I wanted to work. Came back home, did some things, delivered water beds, drove the school bus for a while, and then entered my father's business, his jewelry store, in Monroeville Mall for 18 years, until he closed in 1994, retired. I got the real estate business for 3 years, got my license and all that. Didn't do real well at that, but started my landscaping business in 1998, 26 years ago, and I haven't stopped since. In fact, I was out today, busting my rear end. Yeah, okay. So, other things that might be important, I guess. Why am I running? Well, there's no expression about a male dog. I'm not going to leave the details to you. I'm running because I can. I can. And I care about the students. I care about the community. Really, there's a lot of skills that I have, especially problem solving. It's one reason I'm very successful in my business. My customers have problems with their landscaping. I solve those problems. And I will tell you, I got the best darn customers in town. They love my work. I love them as customers. Very good relationship there. And I can carry that over to the school board also. Top 3 needs of the district: students. Got to prepare them for life. Jungle out there, as they say, and we need to prepare them. The teachers, another need of the district, for them to use their skills to help the children learn the skills that they're going to need to survive out there. And everything else, the buses, the buildings, all the other things that make the school district work. And we're done. Am I done? Okay. Thanks everybody for coming out.
Thanks, Mr. Young. Next is Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. I'm Roger Wilson. I grew up in the Detroit area and was in the Navy during the Vietnam conflict, and was transferred to Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I met my lovely wife. And from there, after having a very good education prior to the Navy, and then I was in avionics in the Navy. I worked on search radar on the intruder aircraft, and got a very good education, thank you, in avionics and electronics. So when I left there, I went into television, and I've been in television for over 45 years. I worked in television in Virginia, in South Carolina, in North Carolina, and then we have been here in Monroeville for the last 43 years. I worked at Cornerstone Television for several years as engineer there, and the chief engineer before I left there. And I've been retired for 11 years now. Do a lot of odd jobs, electrical work, and things like that. Try and help people in any way I can. And my daughter was a 1997 graduate of Gateway High School. Her 2 daughters, she has one. They both, well, one graduated. She's a CCAC right now. And the second one is she's a junior at Gateway. They both played soccer, and that's why my Gateway shirt. And I care about students. I care about the education, and I want to see them all be equipped to do whatever they want to do. If they want to work in trades, if they want to go on to college, if they want to go into arts, whatever. We should help our guidance help equip them to do that and go into further education or trade school or whatever they want to do. We can help them be ready to be responsible, productive citizens in the world that's changing out there all the time. I think some of our most important things that I see is to have a good fiscal responsibility. Thank you. Fiscal responsibility, quality education, and that we will be leaving our high school, all our schools, the ability to go into professional or the trades, whatever they want to do.
Thanks, sir. Next is Mr. Anthony Mott.
How y'all doing? My name is Anthony Mott, like you said. I am a graduate from Gateway. I've lived in Monroeville my whole life. Both me and my wife are high school sweethearts from Gateway High School. And I pretty much was a student, you could say, of fine arts. And I love fine art jewelry. And if everyone knows me, some people who know me, I love making custom jewelry, and that's sort of my passion. I have 4 children that are currently in Gateway, all school levels of Gateway, and 1 entering elementary school. I mainly teach young students how to make jewelry and how to start a business. I've been doing that for about 13 years, teaching young students how to make jewelry and how to start a business. A lot of them are Gateway students, and those students have gone on and done great things. I've lost 1 student to a tragic accident, but I still, at that time, instead of taking that loss and being hurt, I took that loss and brought more students to my business to show them what to do. The other thing is what qualifies me. I am really good at business and creating a success story. I took over the John F. building at the top floor. It used to be Monterey Bay. Now it is a event space. I have the 8th floor, which is a jewelry store. And I create my business from really nothing in my basement to a success story. And doing that in both businesses, I've been able to teach a lot of these young men and women that if you don't think college is the right road for you, there's other avenues where you can be successful. And there's also a lot of mentors who are willing to teach you. You just have to be able to get in the right lane. The other thing is what I think the top 3 needs of the school district. One is safety. I find that a lot of the kids don't want to come to school no more. And I would love to be able to find a way to make sure those kids do not leave. A lot of the parents say, I want to go to Murray, or I want to go to this. I think it's a need to make sure they stay in Monroeville. Monroeville has a lot of great opportunities for young people. Second would be for education after school, where they come from, like I said, college, are creating jobs through craft, art, or I don't want to say construction or whatever. And finally, I would say one of the most important is I would say studies, and making sure that each kid is able to learn at the level they need to be able to be great at the achievements they need to have.
Thank you, Ms. Mott. Next is Ms. Leslie McBride.
Hi, I am Leslie McBride. I have lived in Monroeville since about the early 2000s. I have had 4 children. 2 have graduated Gateway. 1 is trying for the master, the 8th grade. I don't know if we're going to get there. And 1 did graduate Central. And they are all in different states of vacation places to go. I is unique in its own. We all have our thoughts and our expectations when walking in, and they are shattered as soon as we go through the threshold. We have to work within a system that we're given to the best of our ability and support administration, our staff and teachers to work within that system that we're given.
That's me.
Okay. The three top challenges in the district, the first one that I see consistently is parent involvement. There are more people sitting in this room right now than have combined attended the 6 meetings that have to do with the cell phone policy and comprehensive plan and what is going to lead your students in the next 4 years in a comprehensive plan. An email went out to every parent in the district about both of these community forums because the parents said we don't have communications, we can't get to administration. We got a new administration. Administration said, please come, give us time, RSVP, let us know, do you need snacks? More people in this room than all 6 of those meetings combined. Again, communication. We have a ridiculous amount of communication now. We get weekly emails from every single school. We're on Parent Square, we're on Skyward. I think we overdid it a little bit. Now we're on Facebook and everyone's like, where do I get this information? Where do I see it? Like it's kind of, can't do one platform because not everybody does that. I don't know what the solution is to that, but that is something that has been discussed. Actually, I have 4 instead of 3. Community connections. 30. We have UPMC, AHN, Target. We do work with Chick-fil-A to get students in high school that are not on the college path or a trade path that need to go into the workforce or just want to go into the workforce. We have so many resources here in Monroeville, and we need to tap into those resources, which is something that is on my agenda and also on administration's agenda. And of course, finances. I have not looked at Facebook today after the meeting on Monday. I will not look at Facebook today after the meeting on Monday. But we are at the mercy of the county. We are at the mercy of the appeals. We are at the mercy of prices escalating, curriculum's changing, so we have to purchase new books and new curriculum. It is not, you don't qualify for this position. So I am running again because I feel, 4 years seems like a long time, but it's not. So much more needs done. And my son will graduate when the next 4 years is over, so that would be great to see all students, including my son, strive through that.
Hi.
Next is Ms. Jeanette Miguel. Okay, sorry for that.
Last name. I'm Jeanette Beagle. Beagle like the dog, spelled very differently. I have been a Monroeville resident for 16 years. I am married to my husband for 17 years. Bought our first home in Monroeville and not looking to go anywhere else. We love it here. We love the community. I have 3 children in the district. I have twin boys that are freshmen this year, and I have a daughter that is in the 6th grade at the middle school. They are my life. They are my everything. Making sure any parent will tell you they will give anything and everything to ensure they have what you didn't have growing up. That's why I'm doing this, for my kids, for your kids. We need to ensure that they have more than we did. Qualifies me, I'm a nurse. I have my master's degree. October, it's when we're in the midst of this program with nursing. We learn critical thinking skills. We are evidence-based. We are data-driven. This position, you need to look at the numbers. I don't get to make the tiny decisions, the day-to-day decisions in the building. That's why we have the administrators that have gone and have gotten that education to learn how to educate. So my goal is to make sure that we have the proper people in the proper positions to get the data from them, to listen to the stakeholders, to listen to the parents and see where do you feel we're lacking, what do you think we need to improve on, and get the information from those administrators. And then you look, do we need to change policies? Do we need, it's collaborative. Everybody needs to be involved. As Ms. McBride said, I attended the cell phone meetings and we discussed those, the comprehensive plan, and this by far blows away who showed up there and the amount of work that our administration put in with talking with the parents, with our breakout groups to understand what our needs were and to make sure it's incorporated in the plan for this district going forward to make sure we are heard. I want to make sure that continues, but I want it to be larger. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Real quick, I don't want to interrupt, so if you want, can we project our voice for the people in the back? The microphones are working, but some of the people in the back aren't hearing as well. So if we just a little louder.
Can you hear me now? Sounds like a commercial. Hi, I'm Shirley Ewert. I'm a resident of Monroeville, obviously. I've lived here for 20 years. I'm a homeowner, taxpayer for that long, and I'm not from Gateway. Unlike most people here, I did not graduate from Gateway schools. I actually came from Wilkinsburg, which was a very diverse community, even back in the day when I was going to school. So most importantly, I'm running for the school board seat so that I can collaborate with other members of the board and administration, because I want to be able to have the ability for all of us together to have the decision-making power to make the students in Monroeville and Pitcairn have the best education possible. I hadn't planned on becoming or running for school board at all, but I started going to school board meetings just to kind of find out what's going on in the community and what's going on in our school district. After I was at a few meetings, I felt that it was time for me to give back and become more involved. And so I've been continuing to go to the meetings because I've learned so very much, and I have a different perspective of what the school board does than what I originally thought. I only wish that more community members and parents would attend the school board meetings. As Leslie mentioned, it's disheartening when you're making decisions and you really haven't gotten feedback or the input from the community. Fortunately now, since I've decided to run, the good news is I am retired and I have the gift of time and the flexibility to be able to contribute to the activities on the school board. And I know that it's not just a couple meetings a month, that there are a lot of committees, that there's a lot of other activities that you must do if you want to really fully participate and be knowledgeable of what's going on. As far as experience, I have over 30 years. I know it's hard to believe that I'm not that old, but I started when I was very young. I have quite a few years in business where I was in leadership. I worked with contracts. I collaborated with other teams. So those types of things, I worked with contracts. In addition to that, I was a paramedic in the city.
30 seconds.
As a paramedic in the city, and I'm a nurse as well. And I have worked with special needs children. I worked one-on-one in a school here in Monroeville for several years, so I'm familiar with the needs of some of these special needs children. I also was able to work with them in transporting, and I had responsibility for multiple students on a bus when they were all special needs to and from school. My top 3 needs that I've found are provide the children of Monroeville and Pitcairn with the best education possible. We must be fiscally responsible and very prudent with our taxpayer dollars. And school safety and security is also one of my top priorities. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and last but not least, Mr. Rick McIntyre.
Good evening. If you don't mind, for one, I don't think the projection will be admitted. The microphone for that is my giganticness, so it's remaining seating and don't take it as a sign of disrespect. I just feel like the mic's going to work better at the near my head. Again, my name is Rick McIntyre. I just want to take a minute first to thank Nicole and Katie and the Reverend, and I forget your name, sir.
Tom. Just Tom.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody who put this together. together and thank y'all for coming and giving up a really nice night outside to spend indoors listening to a bunch of speeches. So, I'm running because I think that public education is facing an unprecedented attack right now. It's a jeopardy that I've never seen, and many of us have probably never seen. Us being this close to the precipice of seeing public education dismantled the way that we've always known. And it has its problems, but killing is not the answer. It's we need people with strong voices and strong resolve to get on the board, standing up for what we know is right, to make sure that every student here is represented, every student here gets the right opportunity to learn. What qualifies me, I think, is I had 4 years on the board. Previously, I think anybody who's on that board, I think Val can agree, that was probably the toughest 4 years you can imagine for a school board. That was during COVID with the shutdown, and then with the return, it was even more chaotic. And so my time serving on that board, I learned with coming back from COVID, you had to make decisions every 10 minutes. It seemed like the rules were changing, and to get the thing on the feet, and still be able to listen to all the voices, and still be able to keep your focus on what the goal is and what's best for Gateway and make those decisions. During all of that time, I answered every email I ever got. I think 4 years on the board, and I promise you that absolutely will not stop. And that's another one of the 3 points I think that are the challenges that Gateway is facing right now is communication. I think we have ebbs and flows where we do very well, but I still get a lot of emails and calls about lack of communication, about transportation, and buses being late, and all sorts of things, and IEPs being wrong. So I think communication is big. The biggest thing I believe right now is our budget.
30 seconds.
Thank you, ma'am. Our budget is close to $100 million, and with the current contract moving forward, it very well could result in a tax increase every year for the next 4 to 5 years. I believe the Gateway has money that we can find and avoid those taxes. I will not vote for a single tax increase for the entire 4 years I'm there. I promise you that. There's cuts to be made. Gateway, like many districts, are top heavy. Nationwide, I know I'm close to 30, but I think it's earned some grace. But nationwide, the trending has been the teacher to administrator ratio has grown out of whack. Gateway has fallen into that trap to some extent. I think there's some fat to trim there to avoid having to raise taxes. So thank you.
So at this point, we'll start kind of the more substantive point of the discussion, and I think actually we'll begin at the end of the table here, Mr. McIntyre. And these are questions, some of them were many of them submitted by community members. So it reflects some of the concerns and interests of people who live here. So first question is, some parents are concerned about what they perceive as a slide in the standing and quality of the school district. Do you share this belief? If so, why? And what do you propose to combat this downward slide?
Thank you. I don't think it is a perception. I think that the data backs it up, and we've lost ground. I don't think we're doing terrible. I think we've lost ground, and we need to pick that ground back up and get back ahead of Penn Hills as far as great testing goes. We've actually slipped below our neighbors, Penn Hills. And as a reward for that, the teachers are getting a 2% and a full step increase for the next 5 years. I think to combat this slide and the perception of the slide is two prongs. One is accountability. Our teachers, our administrators have to be accountable for the end result that comes out of our buildings. And it's up to us and it's up to the community to let us know where that's falling and where that's failing. The second approach is culture. I think Val, is a walking example of what Gateway culture should be. I'm immensely proud of being a Gateway, loves being a Gator. I don't think that's the overall tenor at the high school right now among students. I think it's a lot because of the fighting and some of the other things we're going to get into tonight. I think if we can focus on the younger students and fixing that culture early and eliminate bullying and teaching these kids to love Gateway and to love their fellow students no matter what they look like, no matter if they're in a wheelchair, no matter who they are. change that culture down low, it ends up blowing up top. Thank you.
Does anyone want to also answer this question or respond to anything? We can, I mean, do you?
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll be happy to. So I agree that there certainly are areas where there can be improvements made. And if you look at any of the statistics, you can see that reading is not where it should be in some grades, etc. And if that is the case, then children can't read appropriately for their grade level, whatever, as they move on, it hinders learning. However, I will support the teachers and the administration, since they are the professionals in education, their recommendations in what is the best thing to ensure that the students have the best education possible. Sorry. I do have a couple concerns, though. There are transient students that come to Gateway. There's a lot of movement into Gateway because Gateway has a pretty good reputation, especially for special needs children. So we have transients coming into Gateway. They didn't go to Gateway from kindergarten through 12th grade. So now we have kids come in from less performing schools, and when they're tested along with our students, that could possibly be making our ratings lower than what they would be. We'd be interested in seeing, let's take and test kids that have been with Gateway throughout their entire schooling, and separately test children that come to us from other districts. Let's compare and see if Gateway is doing something incorrectly with all, or if our ratings are just a little bit lower because of students coming from lesser performing districts. Just information I'm looking for. I'm a data person. I have to see it, and then from that, being informed, I feel you can make the best decision.
Anyone else have any? I think we have a little time for this segment. If anyone wants to speak.
I'm going to bring up the comprehensive plan again because this was addressed greatly with the new comprehensive plan. Unfortunately, that gets submitted to the state. The state has to approve it. It hasn't been approved yet. It is available. You go back to the board docs to go through and look at each point by point, and the plan that the district is putting to address the issues that need to be addressed with making sure our kids are properly educated, that our scores are coming up, the resources are available to all students, the interventions in place, whether it's going to smaller, smaller classrooms. Sorry. Whether it's with classrooms, one-on-one, IEPs, looking at all of that, it is all in that comprehensive plan, and Gateway is addressing it.
I would just like to comment briefly. So the comprehensive plan, she's correct, it is in board docs on the March 25th, 2024 meeting. So anybody can have access to that. I agree some of the scores need to come up, but currently in place, part of this question was what is in place, or what would you propose to combat the downward slide? Right now, we do have after-school tutoring for the elementary schools. We have partnered, and you have knowledge, partnered with CMU for math. It is a data-driven partnership, so they get the data from the IXLs that the kids are doing, and then they focus on the deficits in those classrooms in the middle school for that. They are always looking to improve and expand. We have gotten multiple reports from this partnership at CMU that they quote, our teachers are fantastic, they're organized, they're structured, and I believe your daughter was part of that and had nothing but great things to say as a student with this partnership. So there are things in place that administration has done, and we have supported these partnerships.
Anyone else?
I do find that a lot of my peers do have said it to me that they do not want to live in Monroeville, and none of them who are living in Monroeville want to leave. I was sort of getting into an argument debate about that today, and I find that those those people who want to get their children out or don't want to stay in. I think they are missing what makes Gateway so special. Gateway, when I grew up in it, it was such a diverse school that when people came here, I never saw color. I never saw, there was people being bullied, but parents knew how to resolve the issues quick. So when there was an issue, that things were able to be fixed quickly with the parents saying, I'm gonna get my kid out of here. And I think a lot of the kids are being bullied on social media where they want to stay home and be homeschooled instead of, problems being solved amongst the parents and peer mediation. I do also think Gateway may need to have after school activities where, we have buses that take us home. We don't have buses anymore. So I think there might be a way we have to maybe look at that in the budget, but find ways to say, okay, let's get these kids to stay after school and to have activities for them to want to stay here in Monroeville.
I think that's all. Mr. Young, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think Anthony spoke very well about years ago, Gateway was a model school, and not just the county, but the whole state, 20, 30 years ago. And what happened? Things have changed. The curriculum's changed. Let's just say some of the different concepts that are brought into the education system that have no business being there, that's taken away from the net effect that we want to have on these students, preparing them for life after they're out of school. So we had many years. I know we had all kind of awards. I forget the name of them now, but I remember reading them in the Times Express. Can't believe that. This award, that award, this is 20, 30 years ago. What's changed? That's what needs to be examined. Those changes were not for the better. They need to be removed and, dare I say, get back to the basics. Call it reading, writing, arithmetic. There's also a whole lot more to it. But nonetheless, we got to find what works and then implement those changes. One other thing that I would like to find out is do some research. There are successful schools throughout the country. What are they doing that makes it work? And maybe get some of those concepts and projects involved with Gateway.
One of the things that I see is that COVID did a real number on learning. I know my granddaughters were hit very hard by COVID, and it's been very difficult for them to come out of that, the change in the routine and all that kind of stuff. And I think that hurt a lot, and we just need to do whatever we can to overcome that.
The next subject we're going to deal with is issues of curriculum. And so the first question, and we'll start with Ms. Ewert, what do you do to improve, or what do you propose to improve, fund, and increase access to STEM education for students of all abilities?
Well, currently the STEM is being funded, and I would pretty much go with the recommendations of the educational professionals that are made by the staff and administration for the STEM to continue to be provided to all students, depending on their ability to pursue those. Now, I understand STEM is now STEAM because they included the arts, so that has been upgraded somewhat, and that addition was made to it.
Anyone else?
I'm good with the science. We do have a new science curriculum that is on display for anybody to go and look at. The new curriculum, it goes through a vigorous review with the curriculum committees, brought to the board, they vote to put it on display, we look at it. This curriculum is to meet the new state standards, so we're making sure that what we are teaching our children are to the standards that we need to be doing. So this is part of what we're doing to improve access and make sure that we are where we need to be.
been updated, science standards have been updated. And not only is there the new curriculum that is on display, we also just passed to purchase updated books for science. One of the other things that we've done that does go under STEAM is the computer science classes in the high school, the cybersecurity classes that were just added this year for the high school. We do use Title IV funding for STEAM and STEM. And if there is a student that requires different accessibility, those are in the student's IEPs, they are followed. Things are adaptable and the teachers have to follow that. So actually right now the focus in the school district and most school districts due to the updated curriculum is on science. We have a team of learning approach to adaptive sciences, and in addition to that, Sea-Perch, which I just learned a little bit more about, is actually robots and drones underwater doing obstacle courses. And that's actually where we incorporated the arts, because the arts is what designs these drones and robots. It was initially in high school. In the last few years, it's gone to the middle school, and apparently we're winning these and going on to better competition. So, you know, this question, I really don't accept the premise of the question where it says, what will you do to improve, fund, and increase access? It is funded, it is being approved, and everybody does have access to these programs.
Anyone want to speak to this, Sim?
I say in my city, I found out, like everywhere, I found out it was actually funded and it's already being sort of taken care of. But in my business mindset, I do think maybe having local businesses that are in science, math, contribute to, you know, funding the students. I find, I like to say, with me with art, I put a lot of my money back into, like, the students with art. So I would say the same thing when it comes to science, math, whatever. There's a lot of businesses that are in that field that be able to help fund those programs through fundraising or whatever, just donations. So,
We have another question in the curriculum bucket. Yes, sure. I can, I'll go ahead and pose that. And if you want to go back to the.
Well, with the second part of the question is, you know, with it goes back to my answer again, but with the Black Student Union or different, organizations around Monroeville, for the students in school, I find that, like, again, with businesses being able to help the different programs being, offered, instead of taking so much from the school with taxes and everything else, I went to one of the school meetings and I heard the issue that was being, the young Black students wanted to have a place where they wanted to get together and be able to communicate about what's going on in the Black, for the Black students at Gateway. And me being a, successful young Black man, that you can use my space, I'll give it to you for free, and I'll pay for all the food. And when Gateway came back and said, hey, we're too big, I was able to say, okay, well, if it's staying at Gateway, I'll still pay for the food and whatever you guys need. And when I realized they got really big, I called on, other business owners. I called Chick-fil-A and said, hey, you want to split this with me? Because I have communication with other business owners in Monroeville and saying, hey, look, Gateway has about a couple hundred students that need fed. Let's partner with me on feeding these children. And they said, sure, and they helped split it with me. But it's using the community to be able to help with the different programs that are being offered, from the, like I said, the Black Student Union, the inclusion effort, the equity effort, like all those different things. I think pulling together business and not pulling so much on taxes will help, these young people.
So that's actually a perfect segue for me I'm gonna pose the question and then I'll let you guys speak to it. So second question with respect to curriculum is, with Monroeville being 30% Black, Indigenous, people of color, it is upsetting to me that the federal diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility departments are dismantled. What are the plans going forward to ensure all of our students' needs are being met and the culturally relevant curriculum continues to be offered, African American studies, etc., as well as student life clubs and programs, particularly for LGBTQ and Black student unions, etc. So I think, did I go to you last time? Speak? Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
This question, I had to go back and dig a little bit and look like the PA Ready Index and see our district is 55% non-white. As shocking as that was, we have a 30.6% African American, 11% two or more races. Breaking that down, we do have an African American Studies course. Mr. Spinola has done a great job with. Mr. Spinola has done a great job with providing mentorship for these kids to get their clubs up going. Mr. Mock did a phenomenal job helping these students organize an event where they were able to speak freely. I can promise you that I will never, ever vote to not support any of our students. I will never vote to do away with any of these classes, with any of the partnerships that are being built to make anybody feel like they don't matter. Because you matter to me.
Everybody in here, if you go on the Facebook page, it's captioned. So you can turn it down and read the captions if you're not hearing. So that's the best. I have it running right up here.
Anyone else want to?
Yeah, if I could, maybe I've sat too long. I didn't actually answer the first part.
Yeah, certainly.
You
can go back and forth.
Not to take more time, but to go back to the STEM question. And again, as it's been pointed out, it is fully funded at the moment. I think our participation is actually pretty impressive. I think there's always room for improvement with the participation. And the way you do that is one of the points I was making before about the culture. You make the culture the right way in the early years, and they grow up and get excited about, I can't wait to get to the middle school to take this class, because they've done a tour and they've seen the shiny new equipment. That's the stuff that we need to find, is the newer computer labs, the upgrades in science labs, the upgrades in all the equipment that makes these kids anxious and excited about getting into the science classes and actually learning. I also believe that the federal funding and the state funding thing is all going to be in jeopardy, but there's plenty of grant money and a lot of like independent charitable organizations that like to fund science-based programs. I think if we can get some effective grant writers and people out there searching for this money, we can find money to fund a ton of equipment and get these kids excited about science. As far as the second question, I think the question deserves a question answered first, and that depends on which definition of DEI are we talking about. What I'm talking about is not pushing for my first term, which is, was about equity. Equity isn't helping one group of people because they're who they are at the expense of others. And I feel like that's how it's being portrayed. That's 100% not anybody on that school board, and I don't think anybody at this table would support. Equity is, equality is everybody gets a pair of shoes. I went through that Woodland Hills. Every sports kid got a pair of shoes for every sport. Good luck if they got your size. That's where the equity comes in. Equity understands that some kids need shoes, some kids need boots. Some kids have extra wide feet, some kids don't. That's where the equity comes in. Everybody's getting shoes, but they're getting shoes that fit, and they're going to help them move forward. So I support what we are currently doing, and what we were pushing for towards the end of my first term, which was celebrating the diversity of Gateway, making it one of our strong points, and not something that we have to worry about.
moved on from the school board for the first time, he was a very huge proponent of getting the coordinator. At that time, there weren't goals and outcomes for that coordinator. So since Rick, we have brought in Dr. Kane, who is a DEI specialist at a college, and he was at 2 colleges. And he took a year. He came into our schools, he spoke to the students, he spoke to the teachers, he spoke to the parents, he did surveys, he looked at our data, and he came back and did a presentation at the school board. And he specifically said, DEI, you have diversity, so you don't need that. You know, you are working on the equity piece. Gateway, from my understanding, has had African American history studies for quite some time. They have had the Black Student Union, which, as Jeanette mentioned, you know, Mr. Spinola got up and running again, and then with the help of Dr. Treat and Susan Delaney and Mr. Mott, has really taken that off to a much larger level than it was previously. So, and then we got Dr. Treat in there as a response to what Dr. Kane had reported were some of the deficits. And one of them was exactly what Mr. Moffitt is doing, the community outreach, the getting all the kids connected to more community services. You can't take that away with a signature. You can't take that away in an executive order. You know, he might force us to change it to something else, a different name, but it's still community outreach. It's still needed. It's still going to happen. We're not taking away Black Student Union. We're not taking away any studies, you know, not just African American. There's cultural, religious studies, all of that. It is all needed. Everybody needs all of it because everybody needs to learn about each other. And that's the problem. One of the problems. People-based. They don't want to learn. They just look and they make assumptions. So I would continue to support those efforts and those outreach. And now I know I can use him for community stuff. And,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Mr. Young wanted to,
yeah, I'm going on to 12 minutes since you all are kind of flowing. That's kind of weird.
Less than a minute. As was echoed a lot already tonight, one thing I really would like to see stressed is parent involvement. Parent involvement. The kids that come to the school are not our kids. They're your kids. Parents need to take responsibility for their children. We're here to educate them. Give them life skills so when they graduate, go out in that big cold world, will survive. Not only survive, but thrive. That's our goal. We need to provide them with that basic education, but the parents need to fill in those other gaps. They have special needs, yes. We will do the best that the district can to help them with that. But the parents need to get involved with their children.
I think one of the things that's great about Gateway, it is so diverse. But I believe in celebrating our diversity, we need to be inclusive of everyone and not exclusive. I don't think we should exclude people. If we have a Black student union, that excludes white people. If we have an Asian student union, that excludes everybody else. We need to be more inclusive in all of these things, even though we celebrate these and we try to educate ourselves in all these areas, but we need to be more inclusive of everyone, not exclusive.
I just wanted to make a comment. I support what Roger's saying. Gateway is very diverse, and we're very happy about that. But all students, all cultures, and all races should be represented equally. So, you know, it's something that Gateway is doing, but I think we could do a little better with making sure that everyone is represented on an equal basis.
Thank you. The next round of questions is going to deal with special education. So this question will go to Ms. McBride. How will you ensure programs which support inclusion and access for students with disabilities will continue? Examples: exposure to general education for students with disabilities, equity in classroom learning, devices for speech, accessibility for children in wheelchairs, walkers, etc.
So I do know that there is a lot of fear for what's happening at a federal level. And in particular, special education is protected by a law that cannot be erased by executive order. It is IDEA, and it was established in 1975. So, you know, I implore people to look into that when you hear these things that scare us as parents. I have a special needs child, and he gets support in the school. So if there is a special needs child and they do need these devices, they're in the IEP. By law, they have to be done. If they are not done, then we do not have the correct administration in the special ed department, which actually has recently changed to go over the IEPs and ensure that the school is able to meet the level of need for the child. And I do want to say something specifically about children in wheelchairs. As many people in this room know, Scotty Williams served on this board for over 20 years. And he was a huge, big advocate for ADA and wheelchair accessory ramps. And due to his advocacy and this board support, we now have Scotty Williams wave ramp at the high school, in the back of the high school. I will continue to support these programs, this administration, and if there needs to be, there has been a recent change in the special ed administration, and I'm hearing phenomenal things that they are going through and doing this, so I will continue to support those efforts.
Anyone else want to stand on?
Sure. Special education, again, is another subject that's near and dear to my heart. My mother spent the better part of 20 years in the special ed department at Woodland Hills. I saw firsthand what the right circumstances and the wrong circumstances can do to a child's education, especially when that child is that vulnerable. It's very easy to let that ship start to go astray. And so I think David does an excellent job overall with special education. I know during my time there, we would have a lot of families that were moving into Gateway specifically because of our special education department. That's something that I think that the board I served on, I took a lot of pride in. Even with us doing that well, I had a fairly large number of parents that would reach out to me pretty regularly with issues with their child's IEP. And they didn't feel like they were getting enough attention and enough due process to make sure that their IEP is being followed when they have perceptions that it's not. And I think that's happening just as much today as if not more. I'm still getting the same emails from a lot of the same parents. So I think that comes down to one of my main 3 points that I spoke of earlier, and that's communication, along with accountability. If the special ed department is not communicating effectively with their parents, and keeping the parents of our special needs students happy and satisfied that their students get the IEP they deserve, then we have to hold those teachers and the administration accountable. Thank you.
Anyone else want to address this question?
Comment. So there are laws as well. So as far as executive orders, that can't be done because that doesn't undo a law. We have the American with Disabilities Act. That's not going away. That's a law, and unless that law is withdrawn or changed, it would be. I can't see that easily happening. So that's not something that can go away with the stroke of a pen. Just like Civil Rights Act, it's a law. Those laws are focused on removing barriers, ensuring equal access, and aligning with values of fairness and opportunity. So I'm not worried at all about us losing anything with special education. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually going to move to our next section on school safety. Which we've heard a bit about already. So the first question is, many Gateway parents in middle and high school have concerns about the uptick in bullying, in person and cyber, and fighting. How would you support the principals and the school staff in, there's a multi-pronged question, assessing why this is occurring, B, placing support programs for mental health and healthy environments, and C, appropriate disciplinary actions. And I think Mr. Mock is the next. It is a lot there.
Okay. So this is like a little bit dear to my heart, but why is it occurring? I think one, cell phones are a great asset, but it also is, it's like the angel and the demon on, you know what I'm saying, on your shoulder. So I think, you know, having cell phones can be an asset, but I think monitoring them while, you know, which goes back to with parents, making sure kids are not hurting other kids at home. It comes back and reflects in school. Because I just know from my daughter in ninth grade, this ninth grade class out here fighting like Stone Cold Steve Austin in WWE. So to prevent all that, I think we got to sort of get hands-on. I'm a little old school when it comes to parenting. You know, you don't have a cell phone, you just go disappear. I want to see every part of your cell phone and say, okay, you've been on there for 2 hours. What are you looking at? And that sort of solves a lot of the, you know, self-stupid activities that they're doing. To say, okay, if you're picking on this girl on your cell phone and also the fight breaks out of Gateway, let's nip this in the bud. Let's bring these parents together and say, okay, you know, old school peer mediation. You know, you sit here, I sit here, your parents sit there, your parents sit there, and we talk it out. And this doesn't continue, or discipline actions happen. You know, and I think those are sort of the old school foundations sort of need to be brought back. Mental health and a healthy environment. I think the kids sort of, Gateway's always been a place where I think kids sort of feel inclusive when it comes to feeling okay to be safe. I don't know about this, like I said, this ninth grade is a little bit different, but I think Gateway's always been a place where kids have been safe. After school, things happen. Like I said, I've lost one of my students who had after school, you know, had a conflict after school and he ended up getting shot. But it was a Gateway party with from other schools who came in and had a conflict. So it's sort of hard to take care of everyone else out of school. But like I said, again, the cell phones are becoming like a destructive asset to a lot of these kids, but finding ways to just keep them from destroying each other, I think would be a great thing.
I spoke to my granddaughters about this situation. I said, do you see much bullying? And there's always been bullying. You and I had bullying when we were in class. You know, that's always been around. I said, what about fighting? She said, well, the fighting has decreased considerably since they have a stronger discipline in place where kids are expelled or sent to remote learning. You know, they're not in the situation anymore where they might, maybe you have a bully who likes to get in fights. So you send him home, he's not getting in fights anymore. That has been very effective in whatever policy they changed there to send these kids home, and that has helped quite a bit. And again, a lot of it is parental involvement. If you teach your kids, you know, not to fight, not to get into, you know, trouble like this. And, you know, when I was a kid, if I got in trouble at school, I went home, I got in trouble again. And it needs to be more parental involvement. If your kid, you know, is having a problem, you need to give them some enforcement, some encouragement to walk the straight and narrow, and not to be a jerk.
If I can expand on what Marjorie was saying, it's a good point. The the last part of the question is probably the most important part. Appropriate disciplinary action. There has to be accountability. I don't care how old you are. You're 6 years old in first grade, 18 years old in 12th grade. There has to be appropriate disciplinary action. You mess up, you have to be accountable for it. And the only way you're going to stop things from happening again is by discipline in the first place. I know the cell phone question is actually the next section. But that's probably the root of one of the most evil things going on in school right now is the cell phone. The children should not have it in the classroom. It should be in their locker, locked away. They come to school, put the cell phone in the locker. They leave school, they take it out of the locker, go home. Not in the school. Bullying that goes on, I'll go right back to what I said last time about the parents. Parents involved. Children need to be accountable for what they do with their phones, the things they say, the time they spend on it, for crying out loud, bless you. And that's the only way you're going to be able to get this under control. But yeah, the kids need to be safe, and it needs to be, as it says here, appropriate disciplinary action.
I'm going to add a little bit different perspective to this, especially with the disciplinary action. My role where I currently work, I work in a facility for adjudicated youth. My girls are not in my school because they come from harmful backgrounds. Not every child is blessed to have caring parents that are able to be there involved with everything. Not every child comes from a home with two parents. Not every child even comes from a home where you have two parents, where we may not be working 3, 4, or 5 jobs. So we need to look at what is going on at home. Children learn a lot from home. If you're not living in a healthy home environment, this is what you are portraying because this is what you know. And until you know better, you can't do better. You have to get the psychologists involved, the social workers involved to look at these things. We have children with behavioral IEPs because we are having such issues. So we have to make sure these IEPs are being met. We have in my facility what we call the 5-minute room. Children get overwhelmed, they're overstimulated, they're able to go to sit in a cool, calm place. There's a mental health professional in there that's able to help them walk through, help develop positive coping strategies. And this can be a very big issue to the bullying here in Gateway is every child is not blessed to come from the homes that we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to kind of flesh this out, I mean, the disciplinary action is sort of a policy that comes on the back end, right? And so I'm interested in whether your thoughts on what sort of perhaps programming or policy on the front end might actually help mitigate some of those issues.
I say keep them busy. So I was a troublemaker of all troublemakers. And I think, one, God saved my butt, and me being like taking and George kept me so busy, I had time for trouble. It was like I really was consumed with my craft. And when I found out my craft actually made money, I said, shut the door, I'm out of here. I'm like, let's go. Like, let's use every blessing that God gave me to be a success. And you know, I think if you keep these kids busy and they realize the gift that God gave them, everyone, God is blessed with a gift. If you can find that early, man, that's a blessing. So I think let these kids find that gift early. Give them someone like who can mentor them and say, hey, you like drawing? There's a phenomenal artist down the street. I can show you how to make that picture. This is better. And give them something to learn. And I think that's a huge improvement for Monroe.
I just want to expand briefly on this. Some of this does go back to cell phones, because one of the barriers that actually the teachers and administration are facing in the schools is everybody's texting where to meet for the fight. They're not hearing the chatter in the hallways anymore. Somebody is not, overhearing that conversation. And again, we know cell phones is down here, it's just a different type of conversation. And just like some people up here said, we've all been in a school where there's bullies. Is there more bullying, or is there more social media to promote the bullying? And then is that a component of why there is more bullying? Because it's now online, you're behind a screen. So, you know, we have social workers in the schools. We have a dean of students at the middle school. He does do these groups with the boys and the girls, and when he does hear different things that are going on, and he has the circles and the restoration and the conversations. That is currently in the middle school, and we are again looking at the budget, but we are planning to expand that into the high school so that that role can be there in the high school. This dean of students isn't necessarily, it is about also appropriate discipline when things do get out of hand, but this dean of students is there for a more positive outlook on what the behaviors are in conjunction with our social workers. And if you want to talk about comparing our neighbor schools, we have the most social workers available in our school district than the other school districts around us. We actually have one social worker that went to the surrounding school districts and was like, oh, no, I'm coming back. And he came back. All of our social workers are MSW, they're master licensed social workers, so they can be therapists. They can walk away and go work for FBR and be a therapist. So they're in there trying to get to the heart of why it is occurring, and the mental health and the healthy environments are in there. In the elementary level, they're looking at a space where that they can have a sensory area, a timeout area that is for everybody, not just sensory. And the conversation is happening about a whole room. I think that was what it was called. Val brought that to the board in different places. But the dean of students is a place for that. The social worker's office is currently available for that. The nurses. Our district works in collaboration across the board to make sure and ensure that children do have a safe place to go, and a lot of them do get to choose that adult that they
Anyone else want to address this matter?
Yeah, you know, often whenever it comes to bullying in schools, and something I heard throughout my 4 years on the board is the comparison to, well, when I was in school, we used to, you know, snap the tiles, and there was a lot of really bad bullying going on. I was part of the recipient of some pretty extreme hazing. My sophomore year at Woodland Hills, 2 kids got arrested, I believe. We made the news. It was bad. I think using that as justification for overlooking any level of bullying now is gross. Just because I went through some nasty times doesn't mean my kid should. My kid deserves better than that. Your kid deserves better than that. Our aim should be 100% no bullying, no tolerance for bullying. And I think one of the main points I brought up earlier was culture. This speaks to the culture. If you have a high level of bullying, you have a problem with your culture within your district. Kids that come to school excited to learn don't bully. Kids that come to school with good mental health and good access to everything they need to satisfy all of their base requirements before they can even begin functioning as a member of the school community, as a student, those kids don't bully. It's the kids with the other problems that are coming in and are struggling and hate coming to school. Those are the kids that end up getting a little bit mean. And it ends up passing down because they're now picking on another kid, making him miserable. And that's when that culture spins out of control. So I think we have to focus on the early ages of the elementary school and get these kids back to being excited about coming to Gateway. As far as the mental health programs, I want to commend Leslie. You guys have done a good job over the last couple of years of hiring more social workers. It's something we struggled with my 4 years to try and make happen. I think we're making positive steps in that direction. As far as discipline goes, it's a tough thing. The discipline doesn't come from the board. We don't have a very big hand in that at all, if any. I think in my 4 years, I don't believe we had one time where the administration came to us to vote on an expulsion. We had multiple times where we'd send them to alternative ed, where they were no longer in the district, that they weren't being expelled. And I think a large part of that is because it's extremely difficult to pass all of the requirements to actually expel a child from your school district. It's almost impossible. So alternative ed has become kind of the new expulsion. been doing that for years. It's not working. We still have bullying, and it's still getting worse. We've seen this bubble classes in the middle school come from UP, where they were a problem during, the early years of my work. We lost that class, we walked through, and nothing was done early enough to snap that culture back into something that's pro-gateway and pro-gator. So I'd like to see that change moving forward.
I'm gonna interrupt one more time, I'm sorry guys. I have index cards on the table, and if you have questions for your candidates, you can write them, put your candidate's name on them, and then we can always, if we have time, we might be able to get to a few, or we can give them to you guys, and you might be able to email somebody back. They're available if you need extra ones. Katie and I are around to get you some, and I think they're in the back. So, sorry guys, I'll stop talking.
I'll come around and get them if you have.
So I want to, since we're running low on time, I want to skip a bit so that we can get to the issue of the budget, because we've mentioned it a few times. And so, question is, as budget cuts are looming from the federal government, how will you, A, manage the interests of all students in the arts, technology, and sports, and then B, support teachers in continuing to utilize relevant, inclusive curriculum to support diverse perspectives, innovative teaching, collaboration, and real-world problem solving? I think that goes to Mr. Wilson.
Well, I don't believe that there will be a significant reduction in federal funding. And if we look at the overall picture, the amount of federal funding that we get is like 5% or less. And so most of our funding does come from the community and from the state. And unfortunately, we got shorted in the last go around. I believe the name of that. It's the adequacy. They have a new formula, and yes, Woodland Hills, McKeesport, several other schools got several $1 million that we didn't get because of the algorithm that they use to portion this money. And our administration has written to the state to see if we can balance that out and get help things there. And I think it's important that we be responsible to our taxpayers, and that we try to be as efficient as we can in everything we do, whether it's in teachers and administration. If we're top heavy, we need to balance that out. Are there construction projects or things like that that we might delay, or there are other things? Again, there's maintenance that needs to be done. There's a lot of things that are necessary, but some of these things need to be prioritized, and some things can be delayed a little bit. And we do have a I believe it's called fund balance, that kind of a surplus in there that we're going to dip into that to save some of the increase in the tax base. So I think that's I don't foresee there being a significant problem.
Anyone else want to address this one?
Yeah, I have to look at the numbers from federal funding. I thought it was a little bit higher than that, but I certainly don't want to anticipate losing that federal funding. But if and when that does go, that's disastrous. And there's nothing I can tell you that I'll do that happens, because I honestly don't know how you would make up that kind of money other than look at the state, look at our local officials, the state legislators, state legislators, and looking for guidance. As far as our budget goes, I said it in the opening, I think our budget is a little bit top heavy, and I think there are cuts that we can make to bring that down and to avoid tax increases. As far as borrowing from the fund balance, we borrowed, I think, $880,000 just this week for next year. What that immediately means is, if we did it several times when I was on, next year's budget is already $880,000 in the hole. we are short that funding immediately. So borrowing to save the tax increase this year just kicks that bucket down the next year. So you have to raise taxes, you're gonna have to find funding, or you're gonna have to cut somebody to make up for that 880,000. So that's fine.
I'll jump in on that. One thing you're not gonna do is you're not gonna raise the taxes. All right, you're already squeezing us enough as it is. I get on the board, we're not gonna raise taxes, I'm gonna tell you right now. My wife and I have 4 properties here in Monroeville, all right? We just raised them, what, 36%? That was the county. I don't know. It was raised significantly, and the thing we need to do is, if we have the money, it's how it's spent. Because regarding the federal government, with talk about removing the Department of Education, if anything, that's going to get us more money. Because what's happening is there's a lot of money being spent on bureaucracy, with a capital B. Bureaucracy costs a lot of money. That's money that just goes out to these other people who really don't help us on a local level. So once that bureaucracy is diminished, that'll be more money that will be actually be able to come to us. Actually, that actually is a bonus. And like anything else, we have our budgets. We got to live within our budgets. Look over that school budget. There's a lot of room for improvement there. I'll tell you right now, we can balance the budget without raising taxes. It can be done. There's no doubt about it. Mr. Mark and I are businessmen. We know how to balance the budget. We know how to make money too. Otherwise, we need to be successful. And it can be done. There's no doubt about it.
So I'm going to go to Ms. Ewart, but I want us to think through. So part of the question was, in the event we do have some cuts, I mean, part of this is about what are our priorities, right? In terms of what we would want those funds to be directed towards. So, we may not, but in the event we do, or in the event we make cuts, even if we don't, have reduced funds, what are some of the priorities that we devote those funds to?
2 things. I'll answer your question first. So I think that we would then need to, if we would lose funding, have to take a very hard look. And the priority is to give our students the best education possible. That has to be number 1 priority. There may have to be significant cuts to some other sports. I don't know. We would have to look at other things to see what might be cut. So it would be very hard. It would be a hard thing. We certainly would look for input from the community if that would be necessary. But I did want to go back to what the current budget is, etc. For folks in this community, I don't know how much attention you're paying to this, but there have been quite a few appeals on the assessment, and we have been required to refund money to the mall and some other facilities or other buildings here in the community, a lot of money when they appeal assessments. And it's something that the school board doesn't have, the district doesn't have any control over. So that is somewhere where money was taken away. That now, the good news is that they were prudent and knew that some of this could happen and had put some money aside, but it's still taking money from the district that was really not expected. So that's something to consider, in that I think that there could maybe be some cuts made in budget, but something like that is very, very significant.
I really want to echo what Shirley said. And in addition to that, as I was on the board, I hear everyone saying we're top heavy. We actually got rid of an assistant superintendent position, where we had 1 superintendent and 2 assistant superintendents. So we did eliminate that position there. But then we gained DEI coordinator, pupil services. But there's a secretary that we share in between transportation and maintenance, that she works on both of those. So those things are being looked at, and the assessments. And something else is, we needed a new middle school. That building was was old, it was unable to be repaired and in the making for 10 years over across several boards. Rick, previous to me, and there were some hiccups in that, which did cost this district money up front. And, you know, we're currently looking to gain some of that money back. It was about $700,000 that we had to pay in extra storage fees and things along that line, that we're looking to get back from some of those contractors. So it is a lot. You know, $100 million budget is not easy, and we have great data-driven people on the board and on that committee that are looking at that. And there are still more cuts. What was passed this week, we agreed to put it up for people to look at and put it on 30-day display. We didn't pass a budget. We didn't pass that increase. That did not happen. It is not one sentence on Facebook, you know, scream at the school board, they raised your taxes. No, we put it on policy. We put the policy on display. Go take a look at it. Give us your input. Let us know what you think that we could, you know, get rid of, or shave down or improve. That's what this school board passed on Monday.
Anyone else want to respond to the budget question?
You got 5 more minutes on this topic.
No, I have another one I can ask you. So it's related to actually artificial intelligence. The district received a grant, access to a pilot program to test out an AI robot with 75 students and 50 teachers. It allows for the lesson to be more specific and have direct students if they are off track. 1, do you support this program? 2, what are your opinions about AI and how it should be implemented in the classroom, particularly thinking of issues of safety in the gym?
Yeah, it was either last month or the month before. Mr. Ulowitz gave a phenomenal presentation about AI. He and many other educators throughout the country were in Texas. They learned so much. I encourage everybody to go back and watch that because it was unbelievable with the information he brought to us. They're separating kind of the country into certain regions and different AI programs going through the AIU. Gateway is going to be one of these schools that is working with a specific program to see how it works. AI is not going anywhere. Technology is not going anywhere. We need to figure out a way to use it appropriately, integrate it appropriately, so our children can be responsible with it. I'm in a master's level program. Every time I log into my programming, the first thing that pops up is the AI information. There's AI detectors. We need to learn how to use these things because it's not going away. It is not going to go away at all. Find a way to use it and make it be us be better.
Anyone else want to address AI? Go
I think it's a valuable tool. I think it shouldn't go away. I think we should be able to use it to the best of, like I said, the technology is going to be the best of, we can do. I think we just need to find a way to compete with the robot and not let it, beat us up where like I said, old school where you play chess. I used to love challenging the robot in chess and say, man, I can beat it this time. And you just don't let it, let it win. That's how I feel. I think if you use the phone for, for AI, use it you can assist you, but you shouldn't let it just run the whole life. And I think it's just a valuable tool to be able just to say, hey, look, how can I write this better? I already wrote it, but how would you write it? But not use it to help you with your test and whatever.
Yes, sure. And then I'll go to Ms.
So just referring back to the program that Jeanette mentioned, and I remember when they were talking about it, I'm thinking, oh boy, I don't know about this. Although I support AI in the programming, but I was reassured that the information and the programs they're using are educational. They're being very restrictive on the programs that they're implementing so that children could just not wander off into something or someplace they shouldn't be. So it's being monitored very closely, and it's mostly educational that they'll be using. And I support the AI because I see it as a potential pathway for children that have interest in this to be able to have a significant interest, learn something about it, and then that can be a career. They can either do something with AI in college, or perhaps go to a trade school, or go to CCAC and find that there's a program which is a good fit for them, and now all of a sudden they have found their career.
Okay, thought Mr. Young was first, and then,
Yeah, the artificial intelligence, AI, relatively new thing. And I think at this point, it should be maybe not used in the curriculum in the school. Let the experts figure out the best way to implement it. But I think it would be a very useful tool, especially for special needs students who have particular needs. I think that the artificial intelligence will be able to cater their education a little better than perhaps even humans could. You never know.
Just to actually piggyback on Jeanette and Shirley, when Mr. Ulowitz and them did go to this conference and they chose the programs that have been implemented into the district, they chose them based off their safety and privacy policies. They were very, very clear about that. And this is just a pilot program. We got a grant for it. And then it incorporates back to the question of STEAM and STEM. We're offering to teach the children the safety, how to utilize AI properly as an educational tool. Even though AI has kind of been around, but now integrating it, this is, everyone says it was on the slide, we need to do better. Well, now we're going to innovate with our students being first nearby to access this, get this grant, and then utilize it within our system to incorporate it into their learning, STEM, STEAM, special education, all of it, and in the work that they need to do, these teachers and these students, with the data, and get back to administration and go back and work in collaboration to see if these are the best fit educationally. And maybe they're not. Maybe we do it again next year with 3 other companies. But if we sit back and let it pass us by, then we're going to play catch up and somebody else is going to decide for us.
Okay, so as we're nearing the end here, we've gotten a few questions from the audience, and so I'm going to do a bit of a lightning round is the right word for it. Yes?
I wanted to speak real quick on the AI.
Sure, yes, please do. Yes.
Personally, the extent of my knowledge with AI is making pictures on ChatGPT where my dog could look like Jerry Garcia. I'm not qualified anyway to make any decisions on whether it's moral, if it's this. I have no idea what it really does. I think most of this room, if we're being honest, except maybe Mr. Ritter, really don't understand it all that well. I think something that the district can do and has done well in the past, during my first time serving, we had one of our core curriculum structures was embedded through cross-curriculum, different classes taught. And the focus was digital citizenship. We're learning how to grow up in a world that we didn't grow up in. Technology is ever changing, ever expanding. Knowing the pitfalls of social media, knowing the pitfalls of YouTube, and that everything you see on that one of your 15 screens between your face and the wall at home is not necessarily telling you the truth. And I think we did a very good job of handling that through the district, and I think that's something we can add AI into the fold with. We're introducing these kids to the positive aspects, the positive things you can do with it at an early age, and giving them, again, that culture that this is a useful tool. It's not a tool that I feel like should be used for abusing others.
Okay, so we'll have a little quick lightning round of questions that have been offered. The first is just a point of clarification offered by Rick in the audience. He says, please visit futurereadypa.org for the most current school data. Gateway School District is well outperforming Finn Hill, so he's making that note in the comments. Lynn asks, what concepts don't belong in Gateway's curriculum? Anyone wants to approach that question?
Just a point of clarity, the name of the top is who they're directing the question.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So, so Lynn, are there concepts that don't belong in Gateway's curriculum? That's the question.
I'm trying to look at things in a positive way, things that should be taught, which is the basic skills, things that should not be taught, things that are not relevant to a child's well-being.
This goes to Mr. Mott. How do you plan to dedicate your time to the school board while running your businesses?
Well, the good thing is I got a great team. And I have a phenomenal team. I have 11 employees who, they don't need me there. I can do my jewelry anytime I want. You know, I was starting in my basement in jewelry, so I can make a ring in my sleep. So, you know, I'm really dedicated to this, and like I said, I'm preparing my team for this, so they can, you know, be self-sustained and run the business without me. And I'm training a group of young men to be able to make jewelry at an exceptional level, where all I have to do is quality control it, and that's where a business should be at. Where the owner and the CEO needs to be able to make sure everything runs at the level he expects it to do, but still let the employees do their job.
Next question goes to Ms. Ewart. What do you mean by transient students bringing Gateway schools down? Do you believe Gateway should only accept certain students?
For transient students, I mean they're students that are moving into our district for one reason or another. Gateway has a great reputation for special needs education, and it is my understanding that other specialty schools in the greater Pittsburgh area have said, send your kids to Gateway. So kids are coming from other districts. So what I mean is transient, and they're coming in here from other districts to Gateway because of the good reputation Gateway has. Doesn't necessarily mean special needs, but I know that to be a fact, that people do come here because of that, and they may not be residents. Their family may not reside in Monroeville. So they're bringing their students, they're transferring their students to Gateway. And so they're from another lesser performing district possibly.
This goes to Mr. Young again. As property appeals continue to happen and shrink the budget, how will you protect students' education and safety?
Please repeat the question.
As property appeals continue to happen and shrink the budget, how will you protect students' education and safety?
Okay, as my understanding of the question, the budget is not shrinking. In fact, it's expanding. It's more this year than it was last year. That's an expanding budget, not shrinking. The safety of the students is a top priority. Besides educating them, you got to keep them safe. And as they are relevant to the budget, they would be, I would make sure that they would be adequately funded.
This is another point of clarification. It says no one mentioned Forbes Road Tech School.
I you refer to that?
That was it. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Mott, you're not the only one here that is, they live and work with their hands. I trained welder, I spent many years in Ornamental Ironworks, working with my hands. Unfortunately, my legs have given out. I can no longer stand on my feet and swing on an anvil all day, forging steel. But Forbes Road, I've been big of a fan of Forbes Road as anybody here, and that goes back to my Woodland Hills days. I didn't choose to go that path. And I have a lot of friends that went through Forbes from Woodland Hills and made successful careers and just being a mechanic, all the good things that they teach at Ford. Mr. Fields in the audience is a huge proponent of that place. And I think it should be mentioned, and as Leslie pointed out, Scotty Williams was a die-hard Forbes Tech guy. And I think, his passing left a little bit of a suction there for somebody to really be that person that he was. Because getting big board saying one, because it's still one member to be actually on the board for Forbes Tech. And Scotty was that guy, I think, for all 20 years. And I think he did a phenomenal job.
And yeah, he did, and I want to follow up with that. So, I think it's nine schools right now. So, Forbes is financed by the districts that attend them. And with that being said, there needs to be one board member from every district that is in their school. Their budget is awful. Their teachers get paid $45,000, $50,000 a year, maybe. They're bursting at the seams. Their building is old. Scotty was a huge proponent of this, and I was his alternate and learned a little bit about this. The other school districts, there's not even times that there is 5 people to make a decision. And I attended Woodland Hills with Frank. I'm sorry, I don't hold that against them. And it was big then, and it is even bigger now. They actually, during COVID, they opened up some classrooms for academic purposes, for some history and stuff, so students didn't have to transfer back. They actually pulled back on those academic classes because they were just filling up with their trades and just expanding. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how long it's going to be there. With the underfunding that it is, that the principal over there and the administration try and get grant after grant after grant. But none of our districts give enough money to continue to fund this. And I would implore everybody to go do it, go check it out. They have open nights, and they cook for you. Oh, the food is so good. The culinary, they cook for you when you go. It'll pop up on the Gateway website. We have had the board graduation at Gateway. We have been in attendance to that as a board member. We have the honor of being there. It's also been in Springdale, and we've had the honor of being there. But Forbes is imperative to not only our district, but around. Not every child is college bound. It's not going to happen. Not every child is even trade bound. They might have to work. But this school also gives them an opportunity, even if it's for a half a day, to get out of the mundane high school that they might be struggling with. I have heard stories from kids there that have come to that board meeting and said, this school saved my life. I was not going to get up and go to school every day. Somebody said, check out Forbes. I learned how to braid hair. I learned how to change a tire. I learned how to do this. And I didn't have to go into school every day that I hated because I'm not good at it. And check it out. Sorry. I went on a tangent.
This next one also goes to Mr. Young. So much of the conversation has been about Gateway used to be. We are not in 1960s Gateway. We are now. What is your plan to help the kids who have no parents?
Kids who have no parents?
Yes. Kids who have no parents.
Kids who have parents that can't do what you're
Complicated.
Right.
I don't understand the question.
I think it's referring, I'm assuming it's referring to earlier comments about parents needing to teach kids and things of that nature.
If somebody wants to clarify, they can. I'm making assumption they might live with grandparents, they might live with aunt, uncle. Is that where we're going with this?
It's not my question, but I know who wrote it, and I think to clarify, you're saying it begins at home, discipline has to happen at home, these parents have to be involved. But we're talking about transient families here too, and a lot of them don't have parents that are involved. We can't Some of us can't do that. They might have mental illness, they might be incarcerated, they might be working 16-hour days. So what do you say about those parents?
Those kids, yeah.
All I can say is generally, people who are responsible for the child, whether it's the parent, the grandparent, aunt, uncle, someone's got to be responsible for the child. And that's where some of the other teaching needs to come from, especially regarding discipline.
All right, so the next card is not actually addressed to anyone. The statement says, I'm a 2024 graduate. How will the board address racist language, swear words, and drug use on the Gateway Middle School, or at the Gateway Middle School? My siblings say teachers do nothing and do not care.
Well, I think that comes down to some of the problems I mentioned earlier. For one, it's the culture. You know, the kids that are using slurs and being just being in general nasty and a disruption to learning. They're not coming into school meeting with all of their needs met and coming into school happy. We need to find a way to reach out to these kids and make sure that they're coming in ready to learn and excited about being a gateway. I think the other problem going on there is communication. Things can't be fixed if nobody knows that there's a problem. And oftentimes I find that, when parents were coming to me when I was on the board with a question about an incident at the middle school, for example, and I would ask them, well, have you spoken to the teacher? No. You have to do that first. You know what I mean? If the people don't pursue it, and it's not being communicated to the parents from the district, it's not being communicated from the district to the parents. And all of that, I think, needs to change.
All right. We're out of time anymore.
Yeah, we have to stop.
Okay. Well, I want to
Can I just clarify one thing? Shirley talked about transient students, and I think she was trying to touch base on the slide that we were given by administration, where a transient student is somebody that is defined as just coming from a different school district. That's it. And what we are told is their scores, their PSSA scores, their MAP scores, their Keystone scores come with them. And then they're integrated into our scores.
When the parents move in.
Yeah,
When the parents move in. But there are, and we have had a few residential problems. And some of that is a little bit about what Katie touched on is the McKinney-Vento Act, which if you have a child that is out of placement, out of home, they have to stay in their home school. So if we have a child that was removed from their home in Monroeville, and they are, now Kissimmee even say, this school district is responsible for busing them, because we have to do what's in the best interest of the child. And already the child's at a disadvantage, we took them from the home. So those also go into some of our testing scores and some of our numbers. And I talk about social workers, me and Katie are a little biased, I didn't say this, but I actually work for CYS. And I see firsthand the struggles not only inside school, but at home, and with caregivers and aunts and uncles, and even adult siblings that have never had a child and never experienced it, and they aren't able to discipline because they're stuck in that cycle. And there was a question on here that I think is very important. It talked about mental health, and that was the answer because we ran out of time. And I just want to go back to the social workers and our providers with SDR and outside providers. We have a full-time psychologist on staff. We additionally have two that we contract with, in addition to all the social workers, counselors, and students. And these are trying to be addressed. There was a question about private insurance in here. This board, we can control what Highmark UPMC and everybody else does. Is it fair? It absolutely is not fair. But I want to remind everybody that your kids are in school for 6 hours. They're there 6.5 hours a day. Our teachers are the greatest. Our special ed department is the greatest. You can compare them to anywhere. I'm not going to say we're without problems. There's room for improvement everywhere across the board. Administration down to the lunch ladies. It's just there. We can always learn. And I say again, we need meetings, 9 community meetings that we've had in 6 months that everybody has been invited to. And there's still more people sitting in this room, and we lost half the room than anybody.
Leslie, you should put it on the Monroeville page, the television, because when I was standing over there, there's people that don't know when these meetings are. Because they do not have the internet, they do not, it used to be in the water bill, you know, certain things. That's not anymore. Yeah. Yeah, so you might want to think about in the future, it's a free service, anybody can go and put anything on there for your nonprofit. Why not do it for our school?
And unfortunately, the trip doesn't go to Pitcairn, but Leslie, who is assigned to us.
Everybody in Monroeville don't get the trip anymore.
And she does a phenomenal job too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she does. So, you know, I echo Rick and probably most people here, you know, get involved. Even if you come to 1 out of the 3 meetings, we heard, you know, something.
They put it on the sign, like in front of the building, the school.
The marquee.
Or the sign that is now like at the busiest intersection on this side of the state. Like, I sit at that red light like 75 hours a week. I know I would be way better informed.
So I'm going to tell you the marquee is outdated, and we're working on that. The marquee is outdated, so that is one of the things being.
Am I allowed to say something?
Sure, we'll make this the last.
If anybody knows me, I'm Cheryl Boyce. I am on the school board, and I never shut up and ask questions all day long. Yeah. There's a couple things I'm going to share with you.
Can you use a microphone?
Can
you use a microphone so people online hear you?
I'm inviting all of you to come tomorrow night. We're having a committee meeting. You're gonna help me? Oh, thank you, John. He's our tech person. You're invited to come tomorrow night. We're having a buildings and grounds meeting at 6 o'clock in the administration office. Valerie and I are on that committee. We will be talking about what we're going to do for the schools because we do have to maintain these buildings on top of everything else. So if you would please, you're invited to come to any committee meeting. I'm inviting you tomorrow night to find out what we're going to do with the schools over the summer. Also, we received a $65,000 grant. And the grant is for behavior specialist person. And that person's going to coordinate all of the outside agencies with the needs of the parents. So we do go to get grant money, and I just want you to know we try to get them as much as possible. We tried to get one for pre-K counts, and this is how the state does it. We applied, we had it all just good to go. We were supposed to find out by August. Guess what happens in August? School starts, and we find out we did not get the grant. We have to wait 5 years to try to reapply. So there are those glitches too. Also, Mr. Mock mentioned the community. How many of you remember Mr. Macarelli? Middle school? He was on the Gateway Foundation. A number of years ago, the state caused us to have the ability to have nonprofits as a public school. We have a Gateway Foundation. He was one of the members. It sort of went defunct. We have 2 parents who have graciously stepped forward, and the foundation is going to be up and running, hopefully for this next school year. That allows the ITC state money for businesses to give money to the district where people can apply. If there's something special you want to do and it doesn't have to come through the budget, it can come through the foundation. There are a ton of districts that do this. Ours just for the reason people retired, Mr. McElroy retired, my neighbor was on it, he retired, and now the parents have reactivated. So if anybody's interested in that, our superintendent is one of the members of that. I'm going to be the liaison. I do not get to vote.
I got a question, Cheryl.
Sure.
What would be the purpose of the nonprofit? What would be like the goals or the ideas behind it?
The idea is established by the state.
Okay.
And businesses, businesses like to give their time, energy, and money. But it also allows them to give money as a tax exemption. And it can come through the state, and then they get a tax exemption for donating money. And then we can get the money, we apply, and there's a whole slew of lists. If you go under,
and they put this money to
say Evergreen wants it. Mr. Mayor is here. He wants to do, something. He wants a new playground that would allow him to get a new playground without us having to budget. So just so you know, we do try to get other money. So just. So
bye, everybody.
Yeah, we're invited tomorrow, Buildings and Grounds, 6 o'clock.
All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and close, and I want to thank all the candidates. I want to thank Nicole and